We're on the forest road at the top of Mingus Mountain. And the road continues on along the edge, and then it goes back around the side and eventually comes out on 89A a couple miles north, or I should say south, of Jerome. Out here breaking in the new CF Moto 800 twin ATV. And if you're like me and grew up riding 250s or 300s, you might wonder, well, why do you need an 800? Because that rock right there is about 7,800 feet. And I'm riding single today, but the CF Moto 800 is actually a two-seat ATV. So let me show you what that looks like. So we're about 7,500 feet. Down below us in the valley is Cottonwood. That's the Cottonwood airport at the edge of town. Over top of that little knob in the far distance there is Mount Humphreys. That's north of Flagstaff. Let me see if I can get a little closer for you. There, now you can see it, I think. So this is just a break-in ride. I've driven this road in my 4x4, but it is really washed out. You have to really poke along. And instead, today, I'm riding the CF Moto 800. This is a twin, and it's a specific two-seater, which means that it has a longer wheelbase than a regular ATV. And when you're going up steep, washout, loose rock, that little extra length in the wheelbase is a really big advantage, even when you're riding solo. And if you are riding double, you can get away with getting better traction with a two-seat than you ever would with somebody sitting on the back of a regular ATV. It puts too much weight behind the rear wheel and gives you a chance to flip over. So this is still just a break-in ride. It's got plenty of power, just barely loafing along, but if you've had big single-cylinder thumpers, you'll definitely appreciate how smooth a V-twin is. And on top of that, it has power steering, electronic power steering. So every time you hit a rock with one of your front tires, it doesn't snap the handlebars out of your hand. And you can see the independent suspension. Lots of ground clearance for straddling these rocks, and also plenty of ground clearance for straddling the deep washouts. So it came all the way up from the valley in two-wheel drive. No problem at all. With two people on, you probably would maybe have it in four-wheel drive in a few places. But really impressed with the power, and unbelievably more comfortable ride than trying to do this in a truck. And for those of you that like side-by-sides, don't rule out an ATV, especially a two-seater. if you've done any off-road motorcycle riding, it is really nice to be able to stand up and shift your weight over some of these washouts. And it's just plain nice to be able to stand up and catch a little breeze once in a while instead of being cooped up in a bucket seat. So that's part of the reason why I went with an ATV instead of a side-by-side. They do make a side-by-side with exactly the same motor. Actually two versions, a sport and a utility model. But for all-around use, and since I ride 90% of the time by myself, an ATV just made a lot more sense for me. So stay tuned, we're headed downhill.